A gifted black teen solves a problem no one else could. Seconds later, his name vanishes from the honor roll. That night, he's pulled from class, accused of cheating.
No proof, no hearing.
Just one line. You made the wrong people uncomfortable. His mother demands answers. The school says it's policy, then a flash drive appears, and what's on it could burn the whole system down. Before we deep dive into this interesting story, subscribe to our channel, and tell us where are you watching from. Share in the comments below. The hallways of Oak Ridge Preparatory Academy buzzed with the filtered energy of privilege. Polished shoes tapped across tiled floors. Perfectly ironed uniforms moved like choreography. The smell of expensive cologne mixed with cafeteria waffles and academic anxiety. But the moment Marcus Carter pushed open the door to room 304, everything stopped. No one spoke. No one welcomed him. No one moved.
They just stared.
17 years old. Tall, broad-shouldered, and quiet-eyed, Marcus carried himself with the kind of self-possession that wasn't taught in private schools. It was built in neighborhoods where eyes on your back could mean something very different. He wore his uniform with precision, fresh white sneakers, a new spiral notebook in his hand, and still, the room recoiled. 23 students. One black face. He noticed it instantly, not just in the skin tones, but in the postures, the subtle tilt of heads, the squinting glances, the girl with the platinum braid, who whispered into her friend's ear and didn't even try to hide it. The guy in the varsity jacket, whose leg bounced a little faster now. Marcus felt all of it. And he knew what it meant. Not confusion, not curiosity, just one silent question that hung in the air like humidity. What's he doing here? The only person who moved was the teacher. Mr. Alan Whitmore, mid-50s, navy sweater, khaki pants, and a permanent scowl that had outlasted at least 2 decades of elite students. He didn't look up from his desk until Marcus cleared his throat. Hi, I'm Marcus Carter. New transfer, Marcus said, voice steady. I think this is AP Calc? Whitmore finally glanced up, eyes dragging across Marcus like a barcode scanner. He looked down at a paper, then back up. Something flickered behind his eyes, surprise or annoyance. You're the scholarship student, he said. It wasn't a question.
Yes, sir.
Whitmore didn't respond, just nodded slowly and pointed toward an empty seat. Back row. Far left. Nearest the door. Marcus walked over, every step slicing through that frozen silence. He sat, unfolded his notebook, and told himself, focus on the work, not the eyes. But the stares didn't stop. The girl 2 seats away slowly moved her bag to create more space between them. A boy to his right tapped something on his phone without looking away. Within seconds, Marcus's name would be in a group chat he'd never see. Whitmore cleared his throat. Since we have a new addition, he said, let's do a quick warm-up, just to see where everyone is. He moved to the board with a sharpness that didn't match his slow gait. He picked up a piece of chalk. For a second, the room expected a quiz review, maybe a derivative or chain rule refresher. But what he wrote next didn't belong in any warm-up. It was long, dense, brutal, 3 lines deep, multiple integrals, nested limits, a differential equation tucked inside a complex fraction. Marcus blinked. It wasn't just hard, it was graduate level. The kind of problem professors drop just to prove a point. The class shifted uncomfortably. Some students chuckled nervously. A few looked genuinely confused. Then Whitmore turned around and faced Marcus directly. Why don't you solve this? His tone wasn't angry. It wasn't mocking. It was colder than both. Marcus's heart didn't race, but he felt something in his chest settle in, something quiet, something heavy. He stared at the board for a second, then back at Whitmore. Is this for extra credit? He asked. Whitmore's lips curled. It's just a warm-up. Someone snickered behind Marcus. Another student whispered, good luck. Marcus stood up, walked calmly to the board, and stared at the equation. It was hard. It was aggressive, but it wasn't impossible. Not for someone who'd been solving problems like this since he was 13. Not for someone who spent summers watching YouTube lectures and devouring college math forums because public schools didn't challenge him. Not for someone who taught himself multivariable calculus on a cracked phone screen while babysitting his cousins. The room got quieter with each second. Marcus picked up the chalk. His fingers didn't shake. He didn't try to impress. He just worked. Line by line. Simplify. Integrate. Eliminate. Solve. The chalk tapped lightly against the board, as he moved through the chaos, clean, focused, elegant. His body blocked part of the solution from the class, but a few gasps started to slip out as he reached the final line. He boxed the answer, put down the chalk, stepped back, and turned to look at Whitmore. The teacher's face didn't move. For a full 3 seconds, he just stared at the board, at the answer, at Mark. Then, without a word, he walked up to the chalkboard and erased the entire thing. Not a comment, not a nod, nothing. Just chalk dust falling like snow across the floor. The class stared. Marcus stood there, stunned, trying to read Whitmore's face. But all he saw was a smile that didn't touch his eyes. Whitmore turned to the class, voice smooth. Well, let's get started with the actual lesson. No mention of Marcus, no acknowledgement of what just happened, just erasure, literal and symbolic. Marcus sat back down, but something in the room had changed. Not because he had solved it, but because he wasn't supposed to. And now, he wasn't just the scholarship kid. He was the one who made the teacher look small. And that was going to cost him. As the bell rang and students packed up, Marcus bent to grab his backpack. When he looked up, he noticed a slip of paper on his desk. Just 5 words, written in tight, slanted handwriting. You won't last here. Leave. The first full day at Oak Ridge felt like walking through a glass house where everything looked perfect. But every reflection cut. Marcus could feel it in the way students avoided eye contact in the hallway, the way lockers clicked shut a little too quickly when he passed, the casual tightness of smiles, politeness shaped like barriers. By second period, he already knew the pecking order: who walked in packs, who wore legacy surnames like Armor, who got away with using phones in class, and who could be late without consequence. These weren't just students, they were air. And Marcus Carter? He was a scholarship transfer from South Lindell, a neighborhood that didn't have a Whole Foods or a dog park or even a working streetlight on half its corners. He wasn't ashamed of where he came from. His mom worked 2 jobs. His uncle drove metro buses. His older brother did HVAC installs, straight out of high school. Every win in their house was earned, not donated. But in Oak Ridge, they didn't see resilience. They saw location. The first Google search happened during lunch. Someone across the cafeteria tapped quietly on their laptop. Screen brightness dimmed. Others leaned in as the map loaded. Marcus's address, plain and real, pinned near a cluster of red dots labeled incidents. Crime heat maps, graduation rate chart, blunt statistics that ignored context, family, effort. Isn't that where that shooting happened? One girl whispered. Nah, that was West Lindell. He's from South. Same thing. By the end of lunch, the word Section 8 had been passed around like a rumor, despite Marcus's mom paying full rent. By final period, he noticed the difference. In chemistry, a lab partner asked if he had internet at home. In English, a student offered to explain MLA formatting, as if he didn't already submit perfect citations. And after school, by the parking lot, a junior with slicked back hair leaned against his BMW and asked with a smirk, "So, what's it like riding public transit every day?" Marcus didn't respond. He just adjusted his backpack and kept walking. He had heard this kind of mockery before. Only now, it wore blazers and spoke with grammar. That night at home, he sat at the dinner table in silence. His mom, Camille, poured leftover stew into 2 bowls. Long day? She asked. Marcus nodded but didn't speak. She sat across from him, took off her Walgreens name badge, and exhaled. These rich school kids don't scare me, she said, half joking. They bleed like everybody else, just more money to clean it up. Marcus cracked a smile, but it didn't last. I solved the hardest math problem in class today, he finally said. Camille paused mid-bite. You did? That's my baby. No one clapped. Teacher didn't say a word. Just erased it. She stared at him, unsure whether to feel proud or angry.
Why would he do that?
Because I wasn't supposed to solve it. That night, after his mom went to bed, Marcus opened his laptop to finish his reading assignment. But before he could, an alert popped up on his screen. A forwarded email. Subject line: thoughts on the new edition room. It had been sent to the faculty loop by mistake. One of the junior teachers, maybe new, maybe careless, had typed the wrong name when forwarding it to a colleague. Marcus's name wasn't in the to field. But there it was, sitting in his inbox. Unread. Wait. He hesitated, then clicked. The thread went back and forth between 3 staff members, teachers he hadn't even met yet. Lines jumped out. He's smart. Sure. But these types come with attitude. Already heard from Whitmore thinks he's trying to prove something. We'll see how long he keeps up the act. Once the workload hits, they usually slip. Definitely not Oak Ridge material. Not long term. Marcus's stomach twisted, but his hands stayed still on the keys. His name wasn't mentioned directly, but the context was clear. His presence wasn't welcome. His intelligence wasn't respected. His effort wasn't real to them. It was all a performance, they thought. A phase. A quota. A problem. He stared at the screen for a long time. Heart heavy, but his expression didn't change. It wasn't new. This wasn't his first time being underestimated, but seeing it typed out like staff notes, like he was some case study, cut deeper than anything said aloud. He didn't forward it, didn't reply, just saved the email into a folder titled Keep Receipts. Then he closed the laptop and went to bed. Across town, in a faculty office with high windows and framed degrees, Whitmore clicked into the same email thread. But he wasn't surprised by what he read. He was the one who started it. He scrolled past the comments, then typed a new one. This one's gonna be a problem. He hit send. The next morning, Marcus walked into school, and his schedule had changed. AP Calculus was gone, replaced by Math Support Lab. Marcus stared at his new schedule, like it was a trick mirror. Math Support Lab, room not AP Calculus. Not even pre-calc. Support Lab, the word echoed. Support, like he was a burden. A case, a mistake they were gently trying to correct. He stood in the hallway for several seconds as students brushed past him, laughter and backpacks filling the space like static. It felt surreal, like the school had silently decided who he was without telling him. Without asking, he took the long route to the office, cutting through the library, the gym hallway, even pretending to look at club flyers, just to give his anger somewhere to hide. By the time he stepped into the administrative wing, his face was calm again, quiet armor. Behind the desk sat Mrs. Halverson, a woman with a perfectly symmetrical bob and a permanent expression of practiced patience. She looked up and smiled, not warmly, just enough to say, "We're being professional here." "Hi, Marcus," she said, like she'd been expecting this. "Hear about your schedule?" He nodded. "There's a mistake. I was in AP Calculus. My test scores and placement are—" "Oh yes," she interrupted, tapping her keyboard. "That's correct. You were placed in AP. But Mr. Whitmore submitted a performance concern, said you'd benefit more from a smaller, slower-paced environment." Marcus blinked. "From one problem?" Mrs. Halverson tilted her head, smile still painted on. "It's not about one problem. It's about overall fit. Did anyone talk to me first?" She smiled again, tight this time. "We're just trying to set you up for success, Marcus." It was a phrase she'd used before. He could tell. Scripted, rehearsed, perfect for legal meetings and parent phone calls. But in this moment, it felt like a padded wall being slowly built around him. He didn't argue. He just nodded, took the new schedule, and left. In the hallway, he passed a group of juniors. One of them laughed mid-conversation and looked right at him. "Hey, math whiz. Need a calculator for support lab." Marcus kept walking. Room 112 felt nothing like room 3-4. The desks were uneven. The board was stained. And the teacher, Mr. Griggs, had the demeanor of someone 2 years from retirement, and already mentally packed. There were only 5 other students. None from the honors track. One wore headphones during class. Another slept openly with no consequence. Marcus sat near the window, pulled out his notes, and stared blankly at the whiteboard. He didn't belong here, and they knew it. But the school didn't need slurs. It had systems. By lunchtime, the jokes started. They didn't use harsh words? That would be too obvious. Instead, how's remedial math? You still trying to be the next Einstein? Guess AP stood for almost passed, huh? The laughs were light, casual, always delivered with a shoulder nudge or mock sympathy. Just jokes. Marcus didn't laugh. In gym, he noticed the locker next to his had been moved. The nameplate replaced. No explanation. In art, a student asked, "Do you use different paints where you're from?" In history, when he answered a question about Reconstruction, the teacher smiled too wide. "Impressive. You've been reading." He wanted to scream, not because of what they said, but because of how invisible it was to everyone else. The racism wore a mask here, and it wore it well. After school, Marcus went to the library. It was quiet, more so than usual. He took a seat near the back, opened his laptop and clicked through his Google Drive. Notes. Problem sets. Everything still perfectly organized. He wasn't behind. He wasn't struggling. He was deliberately being boxed out. He looked up. A few students walked past, not noticing him. One girl glanced over and gave a half smile. She'd seen him in English. Probably didn't know his name. Probably thought he was cool for staying quiet. That's how they liked it. Quiet black kids who smiled, nodded, and didn't challenge anything. Back home that night, Marcus stared at his old calculus notebook. Equations lined every page. Margin notes. Solutions. No errors. Just rows of truth. Because numbers, at least, didn't care where you came from. His mom walked in, sat beside him.
Bad day?
She asked. He didn't respond right away, just handed her the new schedule. She scanned it, eyes narrowing. No one called me. No notice. They just did this. He nodded. She took a deep breath. Do you want me to come up there? He shook his head. Not yet. She placed the paper down. You've got two weapons, Marcus. Your brain and your patience. Don't let them dull either. He nodded again. But inside, patience was losing its grip. The next morning in chemistry, Marcus raised his hand to ask a question. The teacher ignored it, called on a student 2 rows over, who didn't even have their hand up. It happened twice. Later in English, when Marcus referenced Baldwin's The Fire next time, the teacher smiled again and said, You know who James Baldwin is? Marcus said nothing. Just stared at her. Let the moment breathe its own awkwardness. Later that day, in the hallway, he walked past 2 seniors in varsity jackets. One nudged the other and said just loud enough, He won't last a semester. Marcus stopped, turned slightly, but didn't respond. He didn't need to. The wall was already going up around him. Quiet, calculated, institutional. That evening, while Marcus checked his email again, looking for a message from the counselor that never came, he found something else. A private invitation. From an anonymous account. Subject line. You're not the first. We need to talk. Marcus didn't sleep much after opening that email. You're not the first. We need to talk. No name. No signature. Just a burner Gmail address and an attached PDF. He clicked it cautiously. Inside, a scanned photo of Oak Ridge's yearbook from a black student, mid-speech at the school's science fair, stood under a banner, Innovation Through Numbers. The caption read, Charles D. Simmons, winner, AP Mathematics Award. Marcus had never heard that name. There were no banners of him in the hallway, no awards in the glass case. But beneath the photo, someone had handwritten. He solved a problem too. By first period, Marcus's mind was still tangled in the mystery, but it untangled quickly when he saw his new schedule. Somehow, overnight, AP Calculus had been restored. Room 3, Whitmore's Kingdom. Marcus walked in slowly. Same desks, same students, same chill in the air. But now the room was armed with something more than suspicion. It was laced with quiet resentment. Whitmore didn't look up as Marcus entered, didn't say a word, just kept scribbling on the board. A sequence of integrals, coefficients, implicit differentiation. Without turning, he finally spoke. Glad to see the error corrected. Marcus took his old seat. There was no welcome, no explanation, just reinsertion. But Whitmore didn't operate with transparency. He operated with control. For the next few days, the tension didn't crack. It calcified. Every question Whitmore posed was sharp-edged. Every example written was unnecessarily complex. He never called on Marcus, never made eye contact. But his lesson plans changed. They got harder, specific, almost curated to trip Marcus up in front of the class. It didn't work. Marcus solved problems quietly, turned in assignments on time. Clean, efficient, unflinching. And that's what infuriated Whitmore the most. Not that Marcus challenged him, but that he did it without fear. To someone like Whitmore, who had spent years surrounded by obedient admiration, Marcus wasn't a student. He was a spotlight. During a Friday quiz, Whitmore passed around thick packets. 15 minutes, he said. Show your process. No calculators. Marcus opened his and blinked. The first 3 problems were normal. The fourth, not just advanced, it was obscure, a derivation based on a niche academic paper Marcus had read once online. He solved it. It took 12 of the 15 minutes, but he solved it. When he handed it in, Whitmore didn't even look up. The following Monday, graded quizzes were handed back. One by one, students flipped through their pages, until Marcus's never arrived. He waited, watched. The final paper in Whitmore's hand never got passed out. Instead, Whitmore stood up, walked to the side trash bin, and without breaking conversation dropped it in. Not a crumple, not a mistake, just a slow, deliberate slide. Marcus saw the corner of his handwriting peeking out. He stared. So did the student next to him, Claire Evans. Her eyes widened, but she said nothing. Marcus didn't move. Whitmore finally met his gaze. "No need to grade it," he said. "If you already know everything, there's nothing to improve, is there?" The class laughed quietly. Marcus felt the burn, not from the insult but from the intent behind it. This wasn't about curriculum. This was about dominance. After class, students filed out. Whitmore packed up his bag slowly. Marcus stayed behind. He stepped up to the desk.
"You know I solved it?" he said, voice low.
Whitmore didn't flinch. "And yet, I don't see a grade." Funny how that works. Whitmore looked at him like someone would look at a fly that hadn't landed yet. "Grades aren't just about answers," he said. "They're about attitude, cooperation, fit." "Fit?" Marcus echoed. Whitmore leaned in slightly. "This is Oak Ridge," he said quietly. "We build more than minds here. We build culture." Marcus's heart tightened. "Right," he said, "and people like me ruin the aesthetic." Whitmore's smile didn't reach his eyes. "No need to be dramatic. Just learn the rhythm, or you'll get danced right out." That night, Marcus didn't tell his mom. He opened a blank document instead, wrote down everything Whitmore had said. Time, date, tone. Then he added a new entry under the folder titled Receipts. The last entry before that had been the email thread. The next morning, Claire Evans approached him in the hallway. She glanced around to make sure no one was watching. "I saw what he did to your quiz," she said. Marcus shrugged. "So did he. I'm on yearbook staff," she said. "I know how things disappear at this school." Marcus paused. Claire handed him a thumb drive. "You should see what happened to the last black student who embarrassed Whitmore." At lunch, Marcus plugged the drive into a library computer. The screen loaded a hidden folder. Inside, video footage from a black student, Charles D. Simmons, in tears outside room 3. Behind him, Whitmore, whispering something, smiling. The video haunted him. Charles D. Simmons, brilliant, composed, breaking down just outside room 3. The clip was grainy, clearly captured by an early generation phone, or maybe a camcorder smuggled in behind someone's backpack. The sound wavered, but the visuals were clear enough to read the moment. Charles was wiping tears from his face. His voice was quiet. "Crap, why would you do that? I earned it." And then, Whitmore stepped into frame, smiling. Not the warm educator smile used in brochures, but a flat, predatory one. The kind that didn't rise from joy, but satisfaction. No words from him were audible, but his posture said everything. Dismissal, control, victory. The video cut out seconds later, and Marcus sat still in the library seat, the faint hum of computer fans masking the spike in his pulse. It wasn't just that Whitmore had done this before. It was that no one had stopped him. No one remembered Charles Simmons. Not in the awards case, not in faculty stories, not even in whispers. And now Marcus knew why. The next day, Marcus arrived early, to room 3. The desk felt colder than usual. The room emptier, even with students filing in. Every pencil drop and chair creak echoed louder, like the room itself anticipated something.
When Whitmore entered, his gait was slow but deliberate, like a conductor taking his final bow. He carried nothing but a single manila folder.
He walked to the board in silence. No roll call, no announcements. Then slowly, deliberately, he wrote. It started with one symbol, then another, then lines of nested expressions. Integrals inside summations, logarithmic manipulations, non-linear substitutions. The board filled like a trap, being built piece by piece. It wasn't just difficult. It was brutal. College level. Maybe beyond. Even the honors students were frowning now. A few glanced at each other. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Claire Evans stared at the board and blinked twice, genuinely confused. And Whitmore turned slowly to face the class. His voice was quiet, almost amused. "This one's not for points," he said. "Just curiosity. Let's see who's really thinking." Then, with chilling precision, he looked directly at Marcus. "I assume you'd like to give it a shot." A few students chuckled. It wasn't just an academic problem. It was bait, public, calculated. Marcus knew it. And still, he stood. He didn't flinch, didn't pause. He walked to the board, took the chalk from Whitmore's hand, and let a breath out before he touched the surface. What came next wasn't flashy. There was no cinematic music, no triumphant montage, just chalk. Movement. Logic. Precision. Line by line, Marcus broke down the mess. He isolated variables, converted expressions, applied substitutions so cleanly. Even the skeptical started leaning forward. By the third line, Whitmore's arms were crossed. By the fifth, Claire had picked up her pencil and started copying his process. By the seventh, one student muttered under their breath, "Wait, is he actually solving this?" By the eighth, the room was silent, dead silent. Even Whitmore's breath seemed to halt. The final step was smooth, effortless. Marcus drew a box around the clean solution and underlined it once. He stepped back, not smug, not defiant, just still. The board told the story. A complete, correct solution. One Whitmore had never expected to be solved, especially not in front of an entire class. Marcus turned to face him. Whitmore didn't move for a long moment. Then a smile. Not proud, not impressed, but something twisted, contained. He walked forward slowly, erased the board in full view of the class, every line Marcus had written, and turned back as if nothing had happened. "Pop quiz Friday," he said. Then he picked up his folder and left. No acknowledgement, no applause, just erasure. After class, the room buzzed with whispers. "I thought that was unsolvable. Where did he even learn that? Wait, was that real?" But the loudest sound in Marcus's ears was Whitmore's silence. He returned to his seat, packed up and moved to leave. Claire caught up with him near the hallway. "You know that wasn't just a challenge," she said. "That was personal." "I know," he said. She hesitated. "You think he'll try something else?" "He already has." That afternoon, Marcus logged into the student portal to check his grades. His quiz, the one erased, was now marked incomplete. But that wasn't the twist. The real shock came when he opened his transcript. His AP enrollment had been flagged for academic dishonesty. The academic dishonesty flag didn't come with a meeting. It didn't come with an email, a phone call, or even a conversation. It was just there, quietly embedded in Marcus's student profile, like a scar under clothing. Flagged, suspected irregularities in independent assessment. Pending review. No specifics. No proof. Just doubt. Officialized. Marcus stared at the screen for 10 full minutes in the library before closing the tab. The timing wasn't random. He knew that. Solve the hardest problem on the board. Get accused of cheating the same day. Coincidence didn't operate this precisely. By the next morning, Oak Ridge had shifted. Not the buildings. Not the uniforms. But the temperature. Subtle. Icy. Marcus noticed it in the greetings that didn't come. The way teachers no longer looked up when he walked in. The subtle pauses when he raised his hand, followed by a nod towards someone else. The once whispered comments about his brilliance had turned into glances, filled with unease. Even the other black students, few as they were, seemed to move differently around him now. Not distant out of disloyalty, but cautious, as if proximity to Marcus might bring heat they couldn't afford. The walls of Oak Ridge didn't collapse on him, they bent inward. During a lab in chemistry, Marcus corrected a partner's formula. The kid, Daniel Myers, son of a board member, laughed. "Bro, relax," he said loud enough for the group to hear. "Always gotta prove something." Marcus blinked. It was just wrong. Daniel held his hands up mockingly. "I'm just saying, you're intense, man. Like, chill. It's not that deep." Laughter followed, light and deflecting. Marcus stayed quiet. But inside, something ticked. Not anger, just recognition. They were building a new narrative. Not that he didn't belong, but that he was difficult. In English, his essays, once praised, now came back with vague remarks. Tone could be more cooperative. In history, you've been dominating discussion. Consider letting others contribute. In gym, display signs of resistance to direction. All this for speaking clearly. For raising his hand. For correcting an error. For being right. Out loud. At home, Marcus didn't tell his mother about the dishonesty flag. Not yet. She was already juggling late-night shifts and rent hikes. Adding this would only deepen her stress, and Marcus needed to stay focused. Still, something in him shifted. He stopped volunteering answers. He stayed quiet in discussions. He sat toward the back when he could. Every move, now calculated. But it didn't help. The quieter he got, the louder they made him. One morning in calculus, Marcus kept his eyes on his notebook the entire time. Didn't raise his hand once. Didn't even look at the board. But near the end of the period, Whitmore cleared his throat. I appreciate students who know when to listen, he said. Not everything's a stage. The jab wasn't subtle. Claire shot a glance across the room, her brows furrowed. Marcus said nothing, but the words landed like weights. The next shift came in the form of an email. To Marcus.Carter, @Oakridge Prep. Subjective Behavioral Adjustment Session. Required attendance. From Student Support Services. The body was short. Marcus. Based on recent faculty feedback regarding classroom posture, verbal engagement, and tone, we'd like to schedule a behavioral evaluation session with our school psychologist. Please report to room 24 during your third period on Friday. Admit. Marcus reread the message. Classroom posture. He hadn't even spoken in 2 days. Friday arrived faster than he expected. Room 2014 was tucked between the nurse's office and the student lounge, far enough from classrooms to feel like a quiet exile. He knocked twice. A woman in her early 40s opened the door. Warm eyes, conservative cardigan. A nameplate on the desk read, Dr. Susan Heller. Marcus? She smiled. Come in. Take a seat. He did. Her voice was soft. Trained. This isn't a disciplinary session, she assured. We just want to support your transition here. He nodded cautiously. She leaned in. We've had some notes from faculty about tone, presence, confidence that occasionally reads as confrontational. Marcus tilted his head slightly. I haven't said anything confrontational. She smiled again. That's not what's being said, just how it's being received. That word again. Receive. A word that divorced intent from impact, that turned perception into weaponry. Marcus inhaled deeply. So, being quiet now reads as threatening. Dr. Heller hesitated, then shifted in her seat. I'm not here to judge, just to explore. Sometimes students with strong intellect, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, carry unseen weight. That weight can manifest in ways others misunderstand. He blinked. So it's my weight making them uncomfortable. I'm saying, she said carefully, that adjusting how you present your strengths could help you succeed here. This school rewards subtlety. Marcus sat back. This wasn't therapy. This was a correction session dressed as compassion. After 30 minutes of roundabout phrasing and soft skills suggestions, she handed him a form titled Student Conduct Reflection Agreement. It wasn't required yet. Back in class later that day, Marcus found a sticky note on his desk. No handwriting, just typed words. Keep playing their game. You'll vanish like the last one. See us, Charles Simmons. Somebody else was watching. Somebody else remembered. The next morning, Marcus arrived at school to find something different taped to his locker. A folded piece of paper. No name. Inside, a copy of Charles Simmons' old disciplinary file sealed confidential and stamped, Expelled behavioral insubordination. Marcus stood at his locker with the sealed disciplinary file in his hands. The folder felt heavier than paper should. The stamp Expelled behavioral insubordination pressed down on the page like a warning. Not just from the past, but from the present. The file was dated to the name, Charles D. Simmons. Marcus flipped through the documents. Vague phrases leapt off the page. Uncooperative in class. Inappropriate academic pride. Disruptive self-aggrandizing behavior. Not a single citation for violence. No mention of cheating. Nothing measurable. Just language built to sound professional and hollow at the same time. Language used to erase brilliance. Quietly. Later that day, Marcus walked past the long glass wall in the central hallway, Oak Ridge's wall of scholars. Portraits lined both sides. 25 frames. Perfectly lit. Names engraved in silver under each photo. Not one black student. Not one. Even the older ones, with feathered 90s hair and grainy photos, all white. The last empty frame had been filled 2 years ago. Claire Evans's brother, Jackson. Math Olympiad finalist. Princeton bound. Marcus stared at the wall for a long time. Not with envy, with clarity. Now he understood the deeper truth. Oak Ridge didn't ignore black excellence. It deleted it. And he was next in line for deletion, unless he rewrote the script. 2 weeks later, the state math team nomination window opened. The top 4 students from Oak Ridge would be submitted as official school delegates. Whitmore led the selection process, as he had for 17 years. Claire sat beside Marcus in the cafeteria the day the nomination sheet was posted. You're going to be on there, she said. They don't have a choice. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You'd be surprised how many choices they have. She hesitated. You aced every qualifying test. Beat seniors. They can't ignore you. He didn't respond. He had learned to expect the erasure before it arrived. Still, part of him hoped. The list was set to go public that Friday. By Thursday night he had finished all his homework early, laid out his Oak Ridge polo, even checked the school website, refreshing the Student Achievements tab more times than he cared to admit. But when Friday morning came, the sheet was up, taped to the academic board in the lobby. Claire beat him there by seconds. She scanned the names first, and her face broke. Marcus didn't need to read the list. He could tell from her expression. Still, he walked forward. State math team representatives: Daniel Myers, Ryan Goldstein, Emily Harrop, Claire Evans. Marcus's name wasn't there. Nowhere. Not even as an alternate. Claire turned to him, eyes tight. This is a joke. Marcus didn't speak. He just stared at the paper, reading it again, even though he already knew. Whitmore walked by moments later, coffee in hand. He didn't stop, didn't flinch, didn't even pretend to explain. Marcus followed him with his eyes. No words, just truth. The system hadn't overlooked him. It had rejected him, openly, boldly, because he'd made it too hard to erase him quietly. So now they'd do it loudly. Later that afternoon, Marcus sat in the library, laptop open, but he couldn't focus. Claire dropped into the seat across from him. I asked about the selection process, she said. He told me it was holistic. Marcus looked up. Holistic?
Grades, personality,
Contribution to school culture. He leaned back. So math team selections are about personality now. Claire folded her arms. He said, your presence in class hasn't been team-oriented. He laughed. Once. Hollow. He means I make him look small. She didn't argue. Marcus looked out the window. Beyond the soccer field, the city shimmered in the distance. His city, not theirs. I wasn't supposed to solve that equation, he said. Wasn't supposed to survive the erasure. I wasn't supposed to stand out without asking for permission first. Claire stared at him. Then make them uncomfortable. Loudly. That night Marcus opened a blank Google Doc titled, The Real Math of Oak Ridge Prep, and started typing everything. But halfway through his first paragraph, a new email arrived. Subject line, Urgent Academic Integrity Board Summons. Monday. Monday came like a storm cloud. The Academic Integrity Board met in the counselor's conference room. Glass walls, long table, 3 faculty members, 1 student rep. Marcus sat alone at the far end, wearing his pressed uniform, tie perfectly knotted, spine straight. He had come prepared with documents, notes, screenshots. He had even printed the curriculum comparison to prove he was already ahead when Whitmore's quiz was administered. But it didn't matter. They didn't ask for his documents. They didn't mention the equation. The questions came in veiled tones. Do you find it difficult to accept feedback? Would you say you seek approval or recognition from teachers? How would you describe your behavior in class when you disagree with a grading outcome? Marcus answered calmly, measured. But it became clear, this wasn't an investigation. It was a soft trial, and the verdict had already been sketched in pencil. The meeting ended with vague promises to review further, connect with Mr. Whitmore, and reach out if clarification is needed.
no timeline, no apology, no defense.
Marcus walked out of the room with his jaw tight, and his hands colder than they should have been. Lunch that day was unusually loud. It wasn't clear if students had heard about the board meeting, but word had traveled, fast. Maybe it was Whitmore, maybe faculty, maybe just the ever-watchful eyes of private school rumor cycles. Marcus carried his tray, grilled chicken, bottled water, apple slices. He made his way toward the back of the cafeteria, near the corner table he usually sat at alone. As he walked, 2 students brushed past him, Daniel Myers and Ryan Goldstein, both recently selected for the state math team. Daniel shoulder-checked him. Hard. Marcus staggered slightly. His tray tipped. The water bottle rolled to the floor with a sharp clack. Gasps fluttered across the cafeteria. Marcus turned. Daniel had already stepped back and raised his palms dramatically. Relax, man. You got space issues now. Ryan laughed. He's always on edge. Probably thinks it's racism if you blink too fast. More laughter. Nervous. Awkward. Some amused. Some ashamed. Marcus didn't move. Didn't respond. But the silence was loud. Daniel leaned in. What? You gonna write that in your little report too? Marcus just looked at him. A stare, nothing more. But that was enough. Within seconds, security walked in. Mr. Kane, the head of campus safety, flanked by 2 younger staff. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't ask who said what. They walked directly to Marcus. "Come with us," Kane said. Marcus blinked. "I didn't. I said come with us." Daniel and Ryan stood still, watching, both smirking. Marcus picked up his tray and walked toward the door without a word. In the hallway, Kane walked slightly ahead of him.
"You're a smart kid," he said. "Don't let pride mess that up."
Marcus's jaw clenched. "I didn't touch anyone." Kane didn't respond. Just opened the office door. The assistant principal, Mr. Eckhart, waited inside. He gestured for Marcus to sit. "I've gotten reports that your behavior in the cafeteria today was confrontational." Marcus stared at him. "I was hit. My tray dropped. I didn't say a word." Eckhart nodded, expression unreadable. Still, it was perceived as aggressive. Students felt unsafe. Marcus laughed. "Just once. Short. Bitter. They felt unsafe from me." Eckhart offered a shrug wrapped in diplomacy. "This school has expectations, Marcus. And optics matter. Even silent hostility can escalate situations." There it was again. Silent hostility. Not action, just existence. Back in the cafeteria, Daniel and Ryan were still at their table. Daniel slapped a high five with another student. A few heads turned toward the office door. No one asked what happened. No one needed to. The school had already filled in the blanks. Marcus was given a verbal warning. Escorted back to class.
No lunch.
No explanation to peers. By last period, whispers had spread again. He tried to swing on Daniel. Security had to pull him off. Why hasn't he been expelled yet? Marcus sat in AP calculus with his head down, sketching lines of equations on the corner of his notebook, not solving, just repeating. A form of math that felt more like breathing. Whitmore passed by his desk once, paused, then said, loud enough for nearby students to hear, "Careful with that anger. Numbers don't respond to emotion." When Marcus got home that night, he collapsed onto his bed without even taking off his shoes. His mother walked in later, saw the tray still in his bag, and her expression stiffened. He hadn't told her about the cafeteria incident, or the state team, or the behavioral flag. She sat beside him, brushing a hand over his shoulder. "You're not breaking, are you?" she asked. Marcus didn't answer.
I need to know if they're getting to you.
"I'm fine," he said, but his voice was a little too flat. His eyes a little too tired. She squeezed his arm gently. "You don't have to fight alone, Marcus." He nodded, but didn't speak. An hour later, he opened his school email. New message. Subject: academic probation notice. Marcus, following today's cafeteria incident and cumulative behavioral concerns, you are now under academic probation, effective immediately. Please review the attached document outlining your conduct expectations and the steps required to restore full academic standing. Office of Student Conduct. Marcus stared at the screen. No signature, no specifics, just the cold, clinical language of bureaucracy. No mention of the shoulder check. No mention of the laughter. Only the result. He was now officially, institutionally, the problem. The next morning, Marcus's locker was spray-painted. 4 red letters: blocky, bold, fake, and no camera in the hallway had been working that night. The red paint was still dripping. Marcus stood in front of his locker, as students flowed around him like water around stone. No one stopped. No one said anything. Fake in thick block letters, slashed across the door like a verdict. Angry, certain. He didn't touch it. Didn't move. Just stared. Across the hallway, a teacher passed by, Mr. Calhoun, social studies. He glanced at the mess, met Marcus's eyes briefly, then kept walking. No clipboard, no report, no radio call to maintain. Just another day at Oak Ridge. By second period, the real attack began. Marcus sat in English class when Claire slid into the seat beside him. Her face was pale, strained. "You've seen it, right?" she whispered. He frowned. "Seen what?" She flipped her phone around, opened Instagram, a student-run confessions page with 3,000 followers. Posts came anonymously, but everyone at Oak Ridge knew who ran it. The most recent post, screenshot of Marcus's old Facebook comment thread. Caption: "This dude's got issues. Who threatens classmates and still gets to stay in school." Comments: "Dude's unstable. He needs help. This is what happens when you let them in." Marcus read the comment in the screenshot. I don't care who you are. Say that again, and I'll make sure you regret it. It was beneath a thread titled Oak Ridge Alumni Advice. He didn't write that.
Not even close.
He had never posted in that group. He scrolled. The font was off, the timestamp odd. But to the rest of the school, it looked real. Claire leaned in. This was posted at midnight. There's already 200 comments. By lunch, it had gotten worse. Another post. This time a cropped image of a text message, supposedly from Marcus. They want war. I'll give it to them. The name on top? Marcus Carter. Same font, same timestamp game, same dangerous framing. By mid-afternoon, the rumors were louder than facts. Did he really threaten someone? Didn't he already get probation? I heard he's suspended next week. They're just letting him finish the quarter. No one asked him. No one approached. They didn't need to. Screenshots had spoken. In fifth period, Marcus sat still while Mr. Whitmore lectured about predictive modeling. The irony wasn't lost on him. Oak Ridge had already built a model of who he was supposed to be, and now they were just feeding data into it. At dismissal, his mother was waiting in the car with a familiar look in her eyes. She had seen it too. They didn't talk much on the ride home. Marcus's phone buzzed twice. Claire. Then a number he didn't recognize. He ignored both. That night, after his mom went to bed, Marcus opened his laptop and checked the posts again. Now the accusations were being shared outside the school. Oak Ridge parents' Facebook groups, local student forums. His name was being whispered, as a cautionary tale before it had even been heard, as a human being. And the school? Silent. No statement, no denial, no clarification. His email dinged. New message. From unknown source 42. Subject. You didn't write those. I can prove it. Come to the computer lab. 7:20 a.m. sharp.
Alone.
Marcus hesitated. Another trap? Another setup? But something in him was tired of reacting. He wanted answers. He arrived at 7. The lab was dim, monitors humming. Only one other person was there. Jason Kim Jr., computer science track, low profile but brilliant. The kind of kid who coded mods for games and never looked up from his keyboard. Jason looked up briefly, then turned his monitor. I used to run that confessions page last year, he said. Still have back-end access. Marcus said nothing. Just watched. Jason opened the page code. Pulled up metadata from the screenshot post. This post wasn't uploaded directly. It was routed through a VPN server. And the screenshot? He zoomed in. The pixel ratios don't match standard iOS. The font size is scaled artificially. He clicked again. This text was generated, pasted onto a white background, then posted. Jason paused. You were framed, Marcus swallowed. Can you prove that to the school? Jason hesitated. I can show them. But, he sighed, you're already on probation. They're not going to want tech kids poking holes in their narratives. That was the real problem. He had the truth, but not the power. Claire sat with him later that afternoon on the far bleachers of the soccer field. This school doesn't care about right and wrong, she said. It cares about control, and you messed with theirs. Marcus nodded slowly. Then I'll break their control. She looked at him. How? He didn't answer. Not yet. That night, a second anonymous email arrived. No message body, just an attachment. An internal disciplinary log from 2006, showing Charles Simmons was also framed with fake messages. The person who submitted the evidence, Alan Whitmore. Claire Evans had always been one of the good ones. Daughter of a legacy Oak Ridge alum. Straight A's since freshman year. Varsity tennis, AP courses, student ambassador. Teachers loved her because she was smart without being intimidating, confident without being confrontational. She smiled at new students, tutored juniors in chemistry, and always remembered to say thank you, even to janitors. But Claire had a line. And now, Oak Ridge has crossed it. It started small. She printed screenshots of the fake posts about Marcus and stapled them next to a typed summary of the digital analysis. Jason Kim had shown Marcus. The metadata trails, the font mismatches, the VPN server logs. She put it all in a plain black folder and dropped it on Mr. Eckhart's desk before first period. She didn't sign her name, but Oak Ridge knew exactly where it came from. By third period, she was pulled out of class. Vice Principal Eckhart's smile was polite, but his eyes weren't. Claire, he said, we appreciate your initiative. But some of the material you submitted, it's accusatory. It reads like a conspiracy. Claire folded her arms. Everything in that folder is evidence. and it's been reviewed, he said. But we also need to consider intent. Marcus is under disciplinary review for behavioral issues. This kind of interference. It's not interference, she snapped. It's the truth. Eckhart's smile faltered. Be careful, Claire. We all want to support justice. But tone and timing matter. That afternoon, the whispers started. Not from students, from teachers. In English, Ms. Rivers handed back an essay Claire had written weeks ago. With a surprising B- and a note revisit structure. Lacks maturity. In history, Mr. Owens called on her twice, only to interrupt both answers halfway through and redirect to Daniel. In French, her name was missing from the updated class participation chart, suddenly listed as inconsistent. And in calculus, Whitmore didn't even look at her. That silence spoke loudest of all. At lunch, Claire found Marcus sitting alone again, earbuds in, untouched apple on his tray. She dropped her bag beside him. They're freezing me out, she said. He looked up. What'd you expect? She shrugged. I guess more subtlety. Marcus half smiled. That was subtle. You just didn't notice when it was aimed at me. They sat in silence for a beat. Claire spoke again. I gave them the evidence. Eckhart called it a conspiracy. Because if it's true, Marcus said, then this school has a pattern, and people in power built that pattern. She nodded. And they'd rather bury a truth than break a system that protects them. That night, Claire stayed late for a yearbook committee meeting. When she finally made it to her locker, the hallway was nearly empty. She turned the corner and froze. Her locker door hung open, papers everywhere. Torn pages, photos ripped, textbooks shredded at the spine, lipstick smeared across the top shelf, and in thick, permanent black marker across the door, Race Traitor. A folded note was taped beside it. Claire peeled it off with trembling hands. Only 5 words. You're next. Stay quiet. She stared for a long moment, her breath short, pulse climbing. Footsteps echoed. She turned. It was Miss Jennings, the guidance counselor. Her eyes widened. Claire, my God. Claire said nothing, just handed her the note. Jennings took one look at it, then sighed. Let me call facilities. We'll clean this up before morning. No report, Claire asked. Jennings gave her a practiced look. You sure you want to escalate this? These kinds of situations, they attract attention. Claire laughed, bitter. Isn't that the point? Jennings didn't respond. The next day, Claire's locker had a fresh door. No stain. No trace. No evidence. Like nothing had happened. But Claire wasn't done. That afternoon during 6th period, she stood up during Whitmore's class as he was walking through a lecture on derivatives. Excuse me, she said. The room stilled. Whitmore turned. Yes? I want to ask a question, she said, voice steady. About something that doesn't involve calculus. He waited. Claire inhaled. How many black students have been nominated to the state math team in the last 10 years? Silence. Then nervous coughs. Whitmore's jaw twitched. That's not relevant to today's material. Claire didn't sit down. Because if the answer is 0, and if Marcus Carter solved problems even you didn't expect, why wasn't he chosen? Whitmore's eyes narrowed. Sit down, Claire. She didn't. You erased his quiz. You accused him of dishonesty. And now people are spreading doctored screenshots to get him kicked out of this school. Whitmore's voice dropped. Sharp. One more word and you'll be removed from this classroom. Claire turned to the class. You all see it, she said. You know what's happening. But if you stay quiet, then you're part of it. The tension in the room snapped like a wire. No one moved. No one spoke. Claire finally sat. And Whitmore didn't say another word for the rest of the period. By evening, the fallout began. Her inbox filled with anonymous messages. Snitch. Stay in your lane. Enjoy your B- average, hero. Her name disappeared from the yearbook cover credits. She was removed from a student ambassador email chain. Her invitation to the senior leadership retreat was rescinded due to limited capacity. Claire sat in her room, staring at the note again. The words echoed. You're next. Stay quiet. She took a photo of the note. Saved it. Then opened a new Google Doc titled, What Oak Ridge Doesn't Want You to Know. Minutes later, Claire got a call. Blocked number. She answered. The voice on the other end was quiet. Familiar. You need to stop. Now. This isn't just about Marcus. It's about all of us. You don't know who's really watching. The voice on the phone haunted Claire for the rest of the night. Soft, calculated, familiar enough to trigger suspicion, but not certainty. You don't know who's really watching. The warning clung to her like fog, and by morning it followed her into the hallways, into classrooms, into every glance that lingered just a little too long. For the first time since arriving at Oak Ridge, Claire didn't feel protected by her privilege. She felt hunted. Marcus noticed the change immediately. Claire walked with her head slightly lowered, earbuds always in, backpack zipped tight like armor. She barely spoke unless she had to. Her eyes searched corners more than faces. But she was still showing up. Still sitting beside him in class. Still standing. That meant more than she'd ever know. That afternoon, Marcus and his mother went to his grandfather's storage unit on the south edge of Lindell. It was time to clear it out. The rent had gone up again, and Camille Carter was done letting the past collect dust under flickering fluorescent lights. The place smelled of motor oil and old newspapers, boxes stacked to the ceiling, rusted filing cabinets, stained floor tiles that hadn't been mopped since the early 2000s. "You take the far shelf," she said, lifting a box marked Kitchen 1970s. "Let's work fast." Marcus moved toward a battered trunk covered in duct tape. It took a minute to cut open. Inside, old coats, a radio, and a stack of notebook spirals yellowed at the edges. He almost tossed them aside until he saw his grandfather's name written on the inside cover of one. David Carter, Oak Ridge. Marcus froze. He flipped to the first page.
Notes, math equations, quotes.
Then he turned another page, and one sentence stopped him cold. Oak Ridge never changes. It only gets better at pretending. He stared at the handwriting, slanted, pressed hard into the page like the pen had fought the paper. The next entry, "He failed me in front of the class again." Said my tone was threatening. I was reading Newton's laws. Another, "He told me scholarship kids should know their place, but not to take it personally. That's how it works." Marcus's hands trembled as he turned the pages. Over and over, the same theme: isolation, targeting, silence. But then a name. "Mr. Whitmore. He doesn't age. He just adapts." Marcus blinked. The math didn't add up. His Whitmore, Alan Whitmore, was in his 50s, maybe 60s. Could it be the same person? Or a relative? A father? An uncle? He scanned the dates. The timeline was fuzzy. Maybe Whitmore had started as a student teacher. Maybe he'd been young, fresh out of college, training under someone else. But the way his grandfather wrote the name, it was personal, intentional. The accusations? They mirrored everything Marcus had experienced, verbatim. He packed the notebook carefully, tucked it under his jacket before his mom could see, and rode the rest of the afternoon in silence. At home, he spread the pages out on his bedroom floor, took photos, annotated each journal entry into a document. Every quote, every insult, every microaggression. He aligned them with his own recent experiences, like puzzle pieces. The pattern wasn't new. It was legacy. Later that night, Claire called. "I've been thinking about that voice," she said. The call. It sounded like someone trying not to sound like themselves. Like distorted but not digitally. Like coached. Marcus told her about the journal. Read her a few lines. There was silence on the other end. Then. "So it's bigger than just this year. Way bigger." Claire inhaled slowly. "And if he's been doing this since the 70s, then how many others are there?" The next day, Marcus went back to the library. He searched old yearbooks. There it was. David Carter, Math Club. Honor roll. Removed from team due to conduct concerns.
No other explanation.
Then he flipped through the faculty pages and froze.
D.L. Whitmore, assistant mathematics instructor.
Same eyes. Darker hair. But unmistakable. Alan Whitmore had been there since the very beginning. He was the pattern. Marcus sat back, chest hollow. Everything made sense. The fake screenshots. The false behavioral flags. The silence from administration. The mysteriously erased students from Oak Ridge history. It wasn't carelessness. It was design. Later that afternoon, Jason Kim slipped him a flash drive. "Someone left this in my locker," he said. No note. Just a name written on the drive. Marcus opened the files after school. Inside, digitized scans of sealed faculty complaints, filed by other students between all against Alan Whitmore. All dismissed. 5 black students. 2 labeled aggressive. 3 emotionally unstable. None of them graduated. Marcus scrolled through the names. One stood out. Jordan King. Class of 2. Expelled junior year. Marcus checked the alumni list. Gone. Claire looked him up. No online footprint. No social. No mention. Just like Charles Simmons. Just like David Carter. That night, Marcus opened his email. New message. Subject. You found the journal. No body. Just one attached image. A picture of Marcus. Taken that morning. Walking into the library. From inside the school. The email with the surveillance photo haunted Marcus. All night. No message. No sender name. Just a single crystal clear image. Him in the library. Journal in hand. Backlit by the stained glass skylight. The angle was too clean. Too close. It wasn't from a phone. It wasn't grainy. It was captured by a professional camera. Or worse, an internal surveillance feed. And someone wanted him to know. They were watching. Marcus told his mom everything that night. About the fake posts. The graffiti. The expulsion of Charles Simmons. His grandfather's journal. The names that had vanished. Whitmore's tenure. The photo. He expected panic. Instead, Camille Carter sat on the couch. Legs crossed. Arms folded. Listening like a woman who had lived through the cycle enough times to recognize it. When he finished, she stared at the floor for a long moment. Then stood. I'm calling the district. They got a response faster than expected. Wednesday, 10:00 a.m., district office, ethics and oversight division. The building was modern, sleek glass and brushed steel, but sterile in its silence. Everything inside smelled like lemon cleaner and coffee gone cold. Marcus wore a pressed blue button-down. Camille wore her Walgreens pharmacy tech badge on her belt like a shield. Her spine straightened with every step. Inside conference room B sat a woman, in a navy suit and pearl earrings. Ms. Deborah Hollings, lead district investigator. She smiled the kind of smile that said, "We hear you. But we've already made up our minds." They sat. Folders were opened. Camille started. My son has been harassed, erased, falsely accused, and targeted by a teacher who has a decades-long pattern of this behavior. We brought documentation, names, records. Ms. Hollings nodded. Marcus handed over the journal scans. The flash drive Jason had given him. Printouts of the screenshots debunked by metadata. Yearbook comparisons. Even the sealed expulsion notice for Charles Simmons. She flipped through a few pages, nodded again, took notes. Slowly, neatly. Thank you, she said. We take all allegations seriously. Camille narrowed her eyes. Then you've heard of Alan Whitmore before. Hollings didn't blink. We review all faculty annually. Any formal infractions are investigated thoroughly at the school level. Marcus leaned forward. You mean the same school where he controls the math department, writes recommendations, oversees competitions and erases students from records. A beat passed. Then Hollings smiled again, closing the folder slowly. We appreciate your courage in coming forward. We'll review the materials and determine if any policy violations have occurred. If necessary, we'll initiate internal communication with Oak Ridge's administration. Camille stared at her. That's it. Hollings paused. At this time, yes. Marcus exhaled slowly. He had brought truth. But truth didn't matter here. Not when tenure and reputation and institutional loyalty held more weight than decades of patterns. They walked out of the room in silence. Down the hallway, past framed photos of smiling students and slogans like integrity above all, in bold serif fonts. Just before they reached the exit, someone stepped out from the hallway shadow. A young black man, early 30s, dressed in a plain gray sweater and slacks. ID badge clipped to his belt. Kevin Rollins, records analyst. He didn't make eye contact at first. Just walked alongside Marcus quietly, holding a manila envelope. Then he spoke under his breath. Read this, quietly, and don't say my name out loud. He handed Marcus the envelope and disappeared into a side door before Camille could ask a single question. Back in the car, Marcus opened it. Inside, a 6-page printout, marked confidential, internal correspondence. It was a record of an email chain, dated April. Subject line. Concerns regarding faculty conduct. A. Whitmore. The sender? A former Oak Ridge counselor. The content? Pattern of targeting students of color. Altered disciplinary records. Blocked student nominations to national teams. School board interference suspected. The email had been flagged, then quietly archived with a digital notation. Do not pursue. Referred to principal discretion. The final email in the thread came from Oak Ridge's headmaster at the time. Alan is a valued veteran. We won't start chasing ghosts. Camille sat back, stunned. They knew. And they buried it. Marcus folded the pages again, heart hammering. He wasn't just fighting Whitmore. He was fighting a system that had been trained to protect him, That night, Marcus sent Claire a scan of the email chain. Within minutes, her reply came, "We don't need their permission to tell the truth." The next morning, Marcus opened the student portal to check his class schedule. Something was missing. Room 304. AP Calculus no longer appeared, replaced by a new entry. Special assignment period, pending transfer approval. No explanation, no warning, and no option to re-enroll. Marcus stared at the schedule change on his screen, his chest hollow. No email, no conversation, no office meeting, just gone. Room 304 erased like he'd never been there. The words special assignment period, pending transfer approval sat where calculus used to be. And beneath it, in smaller font, instructor, not even a teacher was assigned. Just a digital cage, locked from the inside. Claire texted immediately when she saw it. "They pulled you?" Marcus didn't respond. He didn't have the words. This wasn't just about math anymore. This was about silence by design. The next day, Marcus wandered into the library instead of heading to his new assignment. He sat in the back, behind the non-fiction stacks, where the cameras didn't fully reach. 20 minutes later, someone approached quietly. Jordan Ramirez, Sr. Soft-spoken, wore the same dark hoodie nearly every day. He was known for having one of the best GPAs in the school, and almost no social presence. Jordan didn't speak at first. He opened his laptop, turned it to face Marcus. A YouTube channel loaded. The name Calculus Recaps, Oak Ridge style. Hundreds of videos, every single one filmed from inside room 3. Jordan finally spoke, voice low and calm. "I've been uploading daily recaps of Whitmore's class for the past year. For review purposes. At first it was just for me. Then a few kids started watching to help with homework." Marcus blinked. Jordan clicked on a thumbnail dated from the second week of school. The camera angle was perfect, barely visible from inside a pencil case, facing the board. Capturing audio. The footage played. Marcus saw himself quiet, focused, solving the impossible problem on the board. Then Whitmore stepping forward, smiling, and erasing everything without comment. Jordan fast-forwarded. Another day, Marcus asking a question. Whitmore ignoring him, then answering the same question when a white student reworded it. Click. Fast forward. Another clip. Claire defending Marcus during a tense classroom moment. Whitmore cutting her off. Then, Jordan pulled up a video from 3 weeks ago. The class was quiet. Whitmore pacing. Marcus had just answered a problem from his seat. Clean. Quick. No calculator. The audio was faint, but clear. Whitmore, standing near the board, muttered under his breath, "He's not supposed to be better than me." Marcus sat back, air gone from his lungs. Jordan paused the video. Let it breathe. Marcus finally spoke. "Why are you showing me this?" Jordan shrugged. "Because I think they're about to make you disappear, and I don't like that." Marcus stared at him.
You recorded everything?
"Almost," Jordan said. "Enough." He pulled out a flash drive, handed it over. Every clip where something felt off, including one where he told a student of color she should focus less on overachievement. Marcus took it, wordless. Jordan stood to leave. "One more thing," he said, pausing. Marcus looked up. Jordan gave a tired smile. "You're not crazy. It's real. The problem is, truth only matters when the right people are willing to hear it." Claire met him after school. They plugged the drive into her laptop in the library. One clip after another. The evidence piled up. Not just racism, strategic erasure. Moments no one would have believed without proof. Marcus being skipped repeatedly during review sessions. His name missing from shared documents. Claire being talked over. Whitmore praising underwhelming answers from white students and criticizing correct ones from black students. And again, that whisper. "He's not supposed to be better than me." Claire leaned back, eyes wide. "They can't explain this away." Marcus exhaled. "They'll try. But if we go public, they'll say the footage was doctored. Say it violates school policy. Say it's out of context." Claire leaned forward. "So what do we do?" Marcus stared at the screen, that paused frame of Whitmore mid-smirk frozen in time. "We make it too big to ignore." That night, Marcus uploaded a video. Not to Instagram, not to the student confessions page, but to YouTube. Public. Titled simply, "What's Really Happening at Oak Ridge Prep." He didn't add commentary. No narration. Just footage, one clip after another. A quiet documentary of one student being quietly erased. In under an hour it had 3,000 views. By morning, By lunch, it hit 50. Local reporters started emailing Claire. An education podcast reached out to Marcus. Parents from other schools started commenting, tagging the Oak Ridge board. The comments exploded. This is how they hide discrimination. I was one of the others too. Expose them all. Why is this teacher still employed? His tone sounds jealous. But as the views climbed, so did the pushback. The school sent out a notice. We are aware of a video circulating online. We are conducting a formal review and urge our community to refrain from speculation. Then Marcus received a message from his student portal. Your video is a violation of our technology policy. Disciplinary hearing scheduled. But before Marcus could even respond, Claire texted him 3 words. He resigned. Whitmore's gone. And seconds later, another email appeared. Subject urgent. Your story has reached national media. By sunrise, the video had passed 100. By third period it hit 50. By the time the school bell rang at 3:15, it crossed 1 million. The clip that ignited it all wasn't dramatic. It didn't have dramatic music, flashy captions or bold voiceovers. Just a shaky, slightly tilted shot of a classroom chalkboard, and a 17-year-old black kid, in a Navy school uniform, solving a calculus equation no one else in the room could touch. Line by line, flawless, silent. Then came the moment. Whitmore stepping forward. No comment. No praise. No correction. Just quiet. Deliberate erasure. The chalkboard wiped clean. And then seconds later the audio caught it. He's not supposed to be better than me. That was it. That whisper was gasoline. The clip traveled like wildfire across TikTok, Twitter, and Reddit. By midnight, someone uploaded it to WorldStar. By morning, it made the front page of Reddit's RS public freakout. Students from schools across the country began tagging their own stories beneath the post. Same thing happened at my school. This is why I stopped answering in class. Gifted. Until I scared the wrong teacher. Don't let them silence this one. Claire watched it unfold in real time. Her DMs flooded with messages. Students, educators, parents, activists, some asking for interviews, others sharing heartbreak, a few offering help. She texted Marcus screenshots, 10K shared. Now it's 3M views. Yale admissions officer just retweeted it. He sat in his bedroom, stunned, watching the view count tick like a stock market explosion. He hadn't spoken a word on camera, and yet somehow, the world had finally heard him. News stations started calling. Local first, then regional.
Then CNN. Then MSNBC.
An NPR producer sent a request for a podcast segment titled, The Calculus of Racism. Oak Ridge's website crashed twice. The school sent out a formal statement. We are aware of the allegations made in a video circulating online, and are conducting a full internal review. Oak Ridge Prep stands firmly against discrimination of any kind. But no one bought it. Not this time. The footage was too clear. The pattern too familiar. The whispers had become screams. 2 days later, a second video surfaced. A recording from digitized. Low resolution. A black student, Charles Simmons, crying in front of room 3-4. His voice cracked. The same pain. The same setting. You failed me for speaking up. The clip showed Whitmore just behind him. Calm. Detached. Silent. The internet connected the dots fast. Different decade. Same room. Same teacher. Same playbook. By day 3, the video had 10 million views. Marcus's name was trending nationally. Let Marcus learn. Erase the eraser. Oak Ridge truth. Black brains matter. Then came the call from Yale. An admissions advisor left a voicemail. We saw the video. We've read the backstory. We'd like to formally invite Marcus Carter to our early scholar symposium. If he's interested, we'd love to speak directly. Then Harvard. Then Stanford. Not pity. Respect. Finally, Marcus stood in the kitchen when the call from CNN came in. He didn't answer at first. He stared at the screen, let it ring twice, then 3 times. Then, he picked up. Is this Marcus Carter? A pause. Yes. This is Rachel Ingram, senior producer at CNN Tonight. We'd like to invite you to share your story. At school, everything shifted, but not in the way Marcus expected. Some students avoided him completely, unsure if they were complicit. Others gave him awkward nods, unsure if they should apologize. A few whispered, legend, as he walked past. But none of that mattered, because Whitmore never showed up again. Friday came. Room 304 was locked. By 10 a.m., an announcement came over the PA. Mr. Whitmore has submitted his resignation effective immediately. We wish him well. No explanation. No accountability. Just gone. Erased like the chalk from his board. But that wasn't the end. Later that afternoon, a new leak hit Reddit. An anonymous Oak Ridge staff member had submitted documents to a journalist. Internal records showing years of complaints suppressed, student files edited, and admissions barriers quietly installed. Whitmore hadn't worked alone. Oak Ridge had protected him. For decades. Marcus read the article in silence, sitting on the back steps of the school, the same place he'd sat on his first week when no one would talk to him. Claire sat beside him. Going to try to bury it again, she said. Not this time, Marcus replied. There are too many eyes now. The journalist who broke the leak reached out that evening. Wants to write a feature. A cover story. Marcus agreed, but on one condition. He wouldn't talk about pain without showing what came next. That night, Marcus walked back into room 304 for the first time since being pulled. It was dark. Empty. But the board was still there, and he picked up a piece of chalk, wrote a new equation, then turned around to find 3 cameras watching him, and a producer asking if he was ready for his first national interview. The building felt different now. Not newer. Not brighter. Not louder. Just freer. It was July, 2 months since Whitmore vanished, and the truth burst wide open. The halls of Oak Ridge were quiet. Summer eerie. No blazers. No whispers. No polished shoes clicking against marble tile. Just sneakers. T-shirts. The sound of possibility returning to a space that had long forgotten how to breathe. Marcus stood at the entrance of room 304, holding a box of fresh expo markers, a lesson plan binder, and the weight of history. Same room, same board. But this time, he was the teacher. The district, in an attempt at both damage control and genuine change, launched a pilot program called Next Equation, a 6-week summer math intensive for underrepresented students from across the district, and they had asked Marcus to lead it. At first he hesitated. Return to the scene of his humiliation. Re-enter the space where they tried to break him. But then he thought of his grandfather's journal, of Charles Simmons, of Jordan King, of every brilliant mind erased before it could bloom. So he said yes.
Not for closure.
But for revolution. His first day was quiet. 9 students, all between 13, black, brown, biracial, 2 from South Lendell, 1 from the very middle school Marcus had left behind. None of them made eye contact when they entered. They sat scattered, guarded, the same way he had sat. Marcus placed his materials on the desk, then walked to the board. The same chalkboard Whitmore had erased him from. And with a single steady hand, he wrote, 3x per O, 2x. The students looked up. Some blinked. One girl in the front, her hair in a puff, whispered under her breath, "He's starting with integrals?" Marcus smiled. "I'm Marcus Carter," he said, turning to face them. "I was in this room last year. Different desk, different story. But I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about how they've lied to all of us." The students sat straighter. Some people will tell you that math is neutral, that it has no bias, that numbers are the great equalizer. But let me tell you what's not equal. Who gets believed when they solve them? Who gets erased when they outshine the room? Silence. Eyes now locked. So if you're here, it's because someone somewhere saw your potential. And if you're sitting in this room, it's because you belong in it. He stepped back, pointed at the board. So, who wants to try it? A hand went up. Then another.
Then 4.
Within seconds, students were leaning forward, whispering strategies, opening notebooks. The energy cracked open like a shell. It was the same equation Whitmore had once weaponized to humiliate him. Now, it was an invitation. By the end of the first hour, the room was buzzing. Laughter. Curiosity. Struggle without shame. A boy named Malik missed the negative sign in his derivative, and the whole room gasped. But not in judgment. In empathy. "No shame in errors," Marcus said. "Every answer tells a story. The goal isn't perfection. It's growth." Each day, Marcus came back stronger. The students began arriving early, staying late, asking for more. By the 3rd week, a girl named Zyra solved a multivariable problem faster than Marcus did. The room exploded in cheers. She looked stunned, then proud, then shy. Marcus smiled. Now imagine if someone tried to erase you before you ever touched the chalk. Midway through the program, Marcus received a package at the front office.
No return address.
Inside, a faded photo. A teenage boy standing outside room. Math club sweater. Smile full of fire. On the back, in ink smudged by time, Charles D. Simmons, 2006. They tried to erase me. You didn't let them. That night, Marcus placed the photo inside his grandfather's journal, tucked it between the page that read Oak Ridge Never Changes and the new one he wrote himself, Until Someone Does. On the final day of class, Marcus walked in early, wrote a new problem on the board. The students came in, saw it, and grinned. One by one, they walked to the board, contributed, corrected, built the solution together. When they finished, Marcus didn't erase it. He stepped back, took a photo, and posted it online. Caption: same chalkboard, different ending. As the students left for the last time, Zaira turned back. "Mr. Carter?" she asked.
Yeah.
She pointed to the chalkboard. "What's the next problem?" Marcus smiled. "That one," he said, "you get to write. If you've ever been overlooked, silenced, or told to stay in your place, you already know how this feels. No one should have to fight this hard just to be seen." But stories like Marcus's are still happening. Every day. Type yes if you believe silence is complicity. Subscribe if this broke your heart and opened your eyes.